Hello and welcome to another session of Let's Learn German. I hope you have been revising continuously and regularly the contents of the previous session. In this session, we are going to work with the concept of participe perfect or perfect tense. There are various aspects to the perfect tense. In the last session, we did the participe perfect of regular verbs or regelmäßige Verben. In this, we are going to do how the participe perfect is made for irregular verbs or unregelmäßige Verben. You are already familiar with the concept of irregular verbs. Irregular verbs are the verbs which change their form, where the vowel is changed by another vowel. And if you look here, you are also familiar with this structure where we make the participe perfect. We have the prefix, which is usually two letters, ge and a. Then we have the verb and the ending. As you can see here, between prefix and ending, I haven't written anything. That is, the reason behind that is that the irregular verbs, as you know, keep changing the form. Unlike regular verbs which have the same form, irregular verbs change their form in the middle, and though they have an an ending, as you can see here, their form in the middle changes. Now, let us look at some examples of irregular verbs in the participe perfect form. Here we have the verbs lesen, sprechen, nehmen. These verbs, as you know, are irregular verbs because these verbs which are now here in the infinitive form, when they are conjugated, they change their form, and here the vowels are changed, they are replaced by some other vowels, like for example, the vowel E or A is replaced by vowel I in lesen, sprechen and nehmen. And as you can see here, we have made the participe zwei form or the participe perfect form of lesen, which is hat gelesen, sprechen ist hat gesprochen, nehmen ist hat genommen. So, as you can see, except lesen, sprechen and nehmen have got a different structure when they are converted into participe perfect form. For example, nehmen does not remain nehmen, it becomes genommen, sprechen becomes gesprochen, whereas lesen remains gelesen. So, here in the verb sprechen, instead of the vowel E, the vowel O is used, and here in the instead of vowel E in nehmen, also vowel O is used. Also, if you see, lesen, sprechen, nehmen have got the Hilfsverb or the auxiliary verb hat. As you know, I have written here the standard form of the participe perfect, which is usually written with the auxiliary verb in the form of third person singular pronoun and the participe perfect form. Also, I would like to again remind you that we always conjugate the verb which is the auxiliary verb, and we never conjugate the verb which is the past participle verb. This part of the verb remains the same, whereas only the Hilfsverb or the auxiliary verb undergoes the change. Also, as you can see, these are the verbs which do not show any movement, therefore, they are conjugated with hat. Now, let us move to these two irregular verbs fahren and laufen. You are already familiar with these verbs. Fahren means to drive, to travel, laufen means to run. Now, as you know, these verbs are verbs which show a movement, and verbs which show a movement, they always make the participe perfect with the verb sein, and here in the standard format it is written as ist gefahren and ist gelaufen. As you can see here, again we have the ge, which is the prefix, we have the ending an, which is the feature of the irregular verbs participe perfect, and then here we have taken the verb form fahren just like that and inserted here, and for laufen also we have written the verb lauf here, the part of the verb laufen we have written it as lauf. So, in certain cases we can definitely put between the prefix and the ending the verb as it is or the verb stem, but for example, for verbs like sprechen and nehmen, we have to be cautious that we do not exactly transfer the verb stem between the prefix and the ending, we have to change it. So, it is always advisable to learn the participe perfect form of the verbs by heart along with the Hilfsverb or the auxiliary verbs. Now, let us do some exercises with participe perfect for irregular verbs. Here, let us look at the verb treffen. You know that the verb treffen is an irregular verb and it means to meet. Now, let us look at its participe form. Well, first of all, we have to decide whether it takes the haben or the sein as the Hilfsverb. Treffen does not take a sein because there is no movement. So, the option for us is to write the haben form, and here we have the pronoun ich. So, we conjugate the verb haben according to ich. So, heute habe ich meine Kollegen. Now, we know that to make participe perfect, we first need the prefix ka. So, we have the prefix. Now, we need the ending. So, before we write the ending, we need the verb form. So, what is the verb form for treffen? Treffen carries the verb form in participe zwei as getroffen. So, as you can see here, the vowel e is replaced by vowel o, and we have the ending an. As you know, an ending is always there for the irregular verbs. So, like the verb sprechen, which has got the participe perfect form of gesprochen, treffen has got the participe perfect form of getroffen. So, here we come to the verb sprechen. The Lehrerin, as you can see here, we have the nominative die Lehrerin. We have to conjugate the helping verb. Helping verb here it is hat because there is no movement of the verb. So, we have the hat conjugated according to the nominative die Lehrerin, and then like getroffen, as I told you just now, we write the participe perfect form of sprechen, which is gesprochen. Now, here we have the verb tragen, you know, means to wear something. So, here we have to write the correct Hilfsverb or the auxiliary verb, and the noun we have here is die Kinder, which is plural, and tragen is a verb which does not involve any movement. So, we write the helping verb haben conjugated according to the noun. With the noun here is Kinder, which is plural. So, we write haben, and then we write the participe perfect form. So, we write first the prefix ka, and then tragen does not change its form. So, it is getragen. So, as you can see, treffen and sprechen change and becomes getroffen and gesprochen, whereas tragen does not change its form and remains getragen. Sehen, now that is the verb we have on our list. Sehen, as you know, means to see. Now, how do we make the participe perfect? Sehen also is a verb which does not involve any movement. So, we have the helping verb haben for that. Here we have the pronoun ihr. So, we conjugate the helping verb haben according to the pronoun ihr, and since, as you can see, it is a sentence which is basically a question because there is a question mark at the end. So, we have the verb at the first position, habt ihr. Now, we need to make the participe zwei. We first have the prefix, and then sehen also does not change any form. So, we have habt ihr den Film gesehen. So, for sehen, the participe perfect form is hat gesehen, or in this case habt gesehen. Now, let us look at the other verb, essen. Essen also is an irregular verb. It means to eat. Now, we have to find out the correct Hilfsverb or the auxiliary verb for the verb essen. As you know, the verb essen doesn't also involve any movement, so it will be the helping verb haben. Here we have to conjugate the verb haben according to the pronoun du, so it will be hast, and then we have to write the correct participle perfect form of the verb essen. First we will write the prefix, and then the participle perfect form is gegessen. Yes, that is a different form of participle perfect. Now let us come to the last verb is schlafen, which means to sleep. Now here again we have a statement which is a verb, which is here again we have a statement which is a question, as you can see, which is a yes or no question. So we will first write the verb or the helping verb at the beginning, and since schlafen as a verb doesn't involve any movement, or there is no movement from point A to point B, we will first write the helping verb. The helping verb here is haben. When haben is conjugated with du, we will have hast, and then we will write the participle perfect form of the verb schlafen. First we will write the prefix, and schlafen also doesn't change its form. So we have the verb schlafen just attached to the prefix ge, and thus we have the participle perfect form of the verb schlafen, which is geschlafen. Now let us look again at the participle perfect form of these common irregular verbs. For treffen we have hat getroffen. I am using here the standard way to denote the participle perfect form of these verbs, though conjugation of the helping verb may vary. Now let us again look at the participle perfect form. Treffen hat getroffen, sprechen hat gesprochen, tragen hat getragen, sehen hat gesehen, essen hat gegessen, schlafen hat geschlafen. Now let us look at how participle perfect is made with separable verbs or trennbare Verben. You are already familiar with trennbare Verben or separable verbs. Well, within trennbare Verben there are regular verbs and irregular verbs. Now you know that a trennbare Verben consists of a prefix and a verb. Here you have an example, abholen, which means to pick up, where ab is the prefix and holen is the verb. You know that when we use them in the sentence, the verb is conjugated and the prefix goes to the end and becomes a suffix. So you are already familiar with the concept that regular verbs, when they make the participle perfect, they have the ending te. So the same concept is applicable also for trennbare Verben, where the trennbare verb is a regular verb. For example, the verb abholen. Let us look at how the participle perfect is made for the verb abholen. Here we have the verb in its infinitive form, and here we have the formula or the pattern. We have the prefix which is ab, we have the again the other prefix ge which is here, we have the verb stem taken from the verb hole, and we have the ending te. As you can see, here we have the participle perfect form of the regular verb abgeholt. Now you must be wondering what would be the helping verb for this. Well, as you can see, abholen means to pick up, but as the verb does not involve any movement, we will always use the verb haben with the participle perfect. So it will be hat abgeholt. Let us look at the irregular verb in the category of separable verb. Here we have the example mitnehmen. Mitnehmen means to take along. Here we have the prefix mit, which you also know is a preposition, and we have the verb nehmen, and we conjugate it, and then the mit, which is the prefix, goes to the end, and nehmen is at the second position in the sentence. Now how do we make the participle perfect of this verb? Here again we use the formula like in the previous example. We have the prefix which is the mit, which is there. We have the ga, and then we take the verb stem and the ending an. You know, participle perfect form of the verb nehmen is genommen. So, we use the same concept here also, where we write for nehmen genommen and then we add the mit towards that. So, here we have the verb mitgenommen and the helping verb is hat. Whenever you are making a participle perfect sentence with trennbare Verben, remember that the first part of the verb will have the prefix which is already attached to the verb, then the ga will come, then the verb stem would become, and then depending on the fact if the verb is a regular verb or an irregular verb, the ending will be either te or an. Now, let us look at the construction of participle perfect with trennbare Verben or separable verbs. Here at number 1 we have the trennbare verb einladen, which means to invite. Now, here as you know, ein is the prefix and laden is the verb, and since it is an irregular verb, it will have the ending an. Before that, let us see which helping verb or auxiliary verb we are going to use. Einladen is a verb which does not involve any movement. So, verbs which do not have any movement usually make an auxiliary verb with haben, and here we are going to use haben in its conjugated form. We are going to conjugate it according to the noun. Here we have the noun eltern, which is a plural noun along with the possessive article minor. So, the conjugation will be minor eltern haben. Now, as you know, it is an irregular verb einladen. So, we will use the formula where we first use the prefix ein, then we use again the prefix for the participle ga, and then the ending of the verb is an, as you know, with irregular verbs. So, before that we need the verb part, and here the verb part is laden. So, here now we have the complete sentence. Meine Eltern haben viele Gäste eingeladen. My parents have invited lots of guests. Let us look at sentence number 2. Here the separable verb or the trennbares verb is anfangen, which means to begin. Here an is the prefix and fangen is the verb. So, it is a verb which does not involve any movement. Now, we will start first with the auxiliary verb. The auxiliary verb will be haben, as you know, since it does not involve any movement. For that we need to conjugate the verb haben. We are going to conjugate the verb haben according to the noun here, der Unterricht. So, it will be hart because it is third person singular, and then again like in the previous example we will use the prefix. Anfangen again is an irregular verb. So, it will have the an ending. Before that we will use the participle prefix ga, and then we will use the verb stem and the ending an. Here we have the participle perfect of the verb anfangen as hat angefangen. Now, let us look at this verb abreisen. Abreisen means to depart. Now, as you know, this verb involves a movement, that is movement or departure from point A towards point B. So, we will use the verb sein. Now, the verb sein needs to be conjugated according to the noun or the pronoun. We are going to conjugate it according to the noun here, that Zug, which means the train, and here we have the verb sein in its conjugated form as ist. So, ist der Zug. Now, if you can identify, this verb is a regular verb. The ending is t. Before we write the ending, we will first write the prefix, then we will write the participle perfect prefix, and then we will write the verb stem and the ending T. So, we have ist der Zug abgereist. Now, let us look at the fourth example. The fourth verb is mitsprechen, which means to speak along. Here mit is the prefix, sprechen is the verb. Now, we have to first see if the verb takes the auxiliary verb sein or haben. Since this verb does not involve any movement, we will use the auxiliary verb haben. We have to conjugate the auxiliary verb haben according to the pronoun here, which is wir. So, we will first write the form of haben in its conjugated form, which is haben, like this, and then we will write first the prefix. Now, as we know, sprechen is an irregular verb, so it changes its form and we will have the participle perfect prefix here ge, and then you also know that sprechen becomes gesprochen. So, we will have the same form here also with the ending an. So, we have now for mitsprechen the form wir haben den Dialog mitgesprochen. Now, let us look at the construction of participle perfect with verbs which are ending with ieren. In German, there are certain verbs which carry an ending of ieren. For example, telefonieren, which basically means to telephone, kopieren, which means to copy, anprobieren, well, it is a trennbares verb which means to try, and passieren, which means to take place. If you see, these verbs have got, of course, an ieren ending, because of which their participle perfect also has a different ending. As you can see, they have the ending iert. So, the n which is in the infinitive is replaced by a t at the end. The rest of the form of the verb remains the same. So, as you can see, with these verbs there is no ge at the beginning or ge, which is usually the case with the other verbs. So, as you can see, telefonieren has got the participle perfect form hat telefoniert, kopieren has got the form hat kopiert, anprobieren has the form hat anprobiert. It is a trennbares verb, as you can see, but because it is a verb which has got a different ending, there is no ge between the prefix and the verb. So, it will retain the same form with the minor change of t at the end. And at the end we have this verb passieren, which means to take place, and this verb has got the auxiliary verb sein now here as the form ist, because there is a change of situation, because of which the verb the helping verb changes here. Let me also tell you that these verbs are just examples of many verbs which have an ieren ending. In course of your engagement with German language, you will come across many verbs which have an ending with ieren, and they will have the participle perfect form either with haben or sein, and the ending n will be replaced by t when you make the participle perfect form. So, as a rule, we can say that verbs which end with ieren, either they make the participle perfect with hat, like the case is here, or with ist, as the case is here, with the ending iert, where the n in the verb is replaced by the t. Now, let us look at this verb telefonieren. You are already familiar with its participle zwei form. Now, we need first the helping verb or the Hilfsverb. Since this verb does not involve any movement, we use the helping verb haben and conjugate it according to the nominative here or the subject. The subject is mein Vater, and then you also know that we make the participle perfect of these verbs where there is a slight change. So, we have here the participle zwei form telefoniert. Mein Vater hat mich telefoniert. My father had called me. Now the other verb which we have is studieren, which, as you can already see from the verb itself, studieren means to study. Now it also follows the same pattern like telefonieren. This verb does not involve any movement, so we will use the helping verb haben in its conjugated form. We are going to conjugate this verb according to the subject or the nominative Schwester, which is third person singular. So we will conjugate it as hat, and as you can see, this is a W question. Therefore, we have the verb at the second position. The question mark is at the end. A W question, you know, carries the verb at the second position, and then at the end we will write the participe Zwei form of the verb studieren, which like telefonieren will be just studiert. Like te we have here, we also have te here. Now let us look at sentence number 3. Here we have the verb kopieren. Kopieren, as you know from the examples which I gave you, kopieren means to copy. Now here we have a sentence with a question mark at the end. So it is a question, and since it's a yes or no question, we have the verb at the first position. We need to put the helping verb here. Since this is a verb which also does not involve any movement, we will use the verb haben and conjugate it first with the pronoun du. So we will have hast, du, das Buch. So it is very easy, as you know, like the previous examples, we have to just write the T at the end. Hast du das Buch kopiert? Have you copied the book? Now let us look at this verb informieren. So as you know, this verb is very easy to understand. Informieren means to inform. Now again, this verb does not involve any movement, so we will have the helping verb haben. We are going to conjugate haben according to the pronoun which will be hat mich über die Arbeit. So very easily we can write the participe Zwei form, where we will say hat mich über die Arbeit informiert. He had informed me about the work. So as you can see, making a participe perfect with verbs like telefonieren, studieren, kopieren, informieren is not difficult. You just have to remember the helping verb. It is usually haben, and in certain verbs it is sein, and then at the end you have to just put the T instead of N. So I hope with this example you were able to understand the participe perfect with the verb ieren. Now let me tell you, with this we come to the second last class of the course Let's Learn German. The next session is going to be our last meeting together. Till now we have done a lot of German. We learnt many aspects of the language, and we also did many examples, we did many exercises, and we had also a lot of fun. I hope you would revise the contents of all the sessions on a regular basis, and also don't forget to revise the important aspects which I have told you about the language German, and also various exceptions to the grammatical rules. The next session is going to be our last session, where we will do some interesting things. Till we meet next time, as I always say, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss.